Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today to see what the Black and White Together project team is up to. This is session 1 of the Black and White Together project, Striped Squares, Patterns 4 and 5. And I'm Professor Sam Norgard. To celebrate International Bead Week, I'm initiating an international project titled Black and White Together. You can hear more about us by listening to my introduction video. But for now, let's get started on session 1. Hyperbolic paraboloids, it's a mouthful, are what we are making. This is a form that is like a saddle or a Pringle potato chip, or you can think of it having 2 curves. The curve that you might sit in on the saddle, and then the curve that goes over the horse's back. I find that they're fascinating forms. Kate McKinnon and the CGB Empire often refer to these as hypars or warp squares. I'll go with warp squares for our work. First, today, I will share with you a diagram from Kate McKinnon's book and an animation by Julia Prettle on how a warp square is constructed. We will review Dawn Peterson's diagrams and Carol Garrity's word charts. Sit back and look at this information as rehearsals in your mind about how the beads go together. Let's look at Kate's diagrams from her Volume 1 book from Contemporary Geometric Beadwork. I'll share my screen so that I can walk you through it. In just a minute, you should be able to see that diagram. All right, here we are. So this is a step-by-step diagram. In other words, it's showing the form building up over time. Kate also has words that can guide you through the process. Join 4 beads together into a circle and pass through the first bead strung to secure your thread. Then we can go on to step 2 or round 2. Using circular peyote stitch, place 2 beads in each corner. So here you have the 4 beads coming together. Your thread is coming out here. We then move on to the next diagram and add 2 beads in each corner. We will be going back and forth from black to white, and that should make it a little easier for you to figure out what is the row that you're working on and what was the previous row. Let's look at round 3. We're going to peyote stitch a bead in each gap on the sides and continue placing 2 beads in the corners. The 2 beads in the corners is what builds those corners. So here we have the thread coming out of the previous round that you have completed. You're going to add 2 beads in the corner, dive down into the previous round, add the next bead, dive down into the previous round. Now you're at the corner. You will add 2 beads. This is repeated in our work until you complete 12 rounds. And notice I've made a note here that we are completing the last round with 2 beads in the corners. Some people complete warp squares with point rounds, but we are going to leave those 2 beads in the corner each time, and this is important for our final construction. Here's an animation by Julia Prettle. And we send a great big thank you out to Julia for all the work done to create this beautiful work. So here, let me take you back to the very beginning and talk you through it. Here are your 4 beads. You can see that thread has come in and it's pulling all 4 beads into a circle and going through the first bead of those 4. Now we're adding the 2 beads in each corner. And as I've stopped the video here, you can think about what's going to happen next. We're going to see 2 beads come on here, 2 beads here, 2 beads here, and you're going to be anchoring that thread, putting those last 2 beads on in that first of the 4 beads in the first round. Let's watch. Okay, here we have those final 2 beads being anchored by going through the previous round. And then the important thing here is to remember to step up. And you always step up by going through the first bead of the round that you are completing. And we can see that done really beautifully in Julia's diagram here. Okay, on to the next round. And here, as we discussed in Kate's diagram, you see 2 beads in the corners and 1 bead in between the gaps that are starting to be the sides of the warp square. Of course, as we build rounds, the number of single beads placed will grow. So let's watch. 2 beads in the corners, 1 on the side, 2 beads in the corners, 1 on the side, 2 beads in the corners, 1 on the side, and watch. We step up. We anchor that bead into the previous row, but we step up into the first bead of the round that we're completing. So by starting with our patterns that are black and white stripes, it should be easier for you to see if you're new to this. And here we go, 2 beads in the corners. And you can see those sides are growing. So now we have 1 single bead to place and then a second single bead to place to accommodate the expanding rounds. Then we'll have 2 here, 1, 1, and 2. Let's go ahead and watch this together. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 for our corners, 1, 1, 2 for our corners, 1, 1, and step up. We're going to do this for 12 rounds. Here we'll just play through the rest of the video so you can see the rounds building. I think it's lovely, just a beautiful work of art in itself, this piece that Julia did for us. And it's so helpful in teaching this process. Okay, we are going to hopefully stop our video and return to my plan for today, which is next to show you some of the resources that we've made to help you understand and be able to create the different patterns. Here, Professor Dawn Peterson, who is a colleague of mine, has created a series of 8 different patterns. Notice that number 1 is solid white and number 8 is solid black. We're actually going to show you how to modify these and do some flower work in numbers 1 and 8. But of course, you can make solid white ones and solid black ones for us and send those to us. That means we'll actually have 10 different patterns. Okay, today we're going to start with pattern 4. And notice that it starts with a black and white start. We have 4 black and white beads in the center, and then each round changes color, going from white to black, white to black, white to black, until the square is completed. Our other pattern, which we will teach at the same time, is pattern number 4, whoops, I've got that twice, is pattern number 5. And we start with white here. This is a subtle difference in the end result because you'll notice when you start with white, you end with black. And what we're learning about creating value is that we are combining or percentage mixing black and white. And in this one, number 5, you can see that there will be subtly more black beads than there are white, creating a little bit darker value than the warp square that starts with a black and ends with white. We're also fortunate to have beader Carol Garrity, who has created word charts for those that prefer to learn that way. And she lays out all the rounds and what is needed in this document. Okay, I'm just going to remind people where to mail your squares. If you can mail them to us, please do. We are so looking forward to seeing how many squares we get and what the final outcome will be. You mail it to IBW, Black and White Together Project, 74 Baroni Lane, Hilton Head, South Carolina, 29928, USA. Please include the maker's name, email address, and country of origin. We'd like to have this information so that we can credit everyone when we represent this piece. If you have questions, we've established an email account that is beatercarol@gmail.com. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll demonstrate for you live or recorded how to get started on making pattern 4, the warped square that is a black start and it is a striped square. Okay, let's see. Now I need to just stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to pull it down to my work tray so you can see the actual series that I've made that moves from a white to a black. And you can see how visually that is a gradation in value. Value means darkness or lightness of a color. And here we're using simple black and white and a percentage mix of those to create a lighter valued warp square here, and then moving towards a middle value, moving darker and darker until we would get to the black flower one. And of course you can extend this by making a pure white one and a pure black one. So let's zip these all up. They pack up nicely together and get out my demo tray here. I'm going to demonstrate the work using larger beads. So I have plastic kind of kids beads, although that could be disputed. They make some beautiful work, especially if you know Suzanne Galton's work. But this will allow you to see it a little bit larger. The final form would look like this. And as you can see clearly, it starts with the four beads in the center right here, all 4 beads drawn into that square. So I'm going to get us started here with picking up the 4 beads. Pulling them down, I leave about a 6-inch tail. I don't use a stop bead, but you could if you would like. I'd like to also mention that if you give yourself about 1.5 yards of thread, that'll get you through the whole warped square. The thread that I'm using is Nymo on a cone. It was introduced to me by Kate McKinnon, and I like it, but a lot of people also like to make these with a different kind of thread. It could be Fireline or any thread of your choice. So I'm going to now go through all four beads again. And then in order to close it into a better circle or square, I'm going to go through that first bead of the 4. Okay. Now, one thing that my friend Franklin taught me to do, shout out to Franklin, is to lock in your tension by creating a knot. And that kind of knot is a half hitch. It's the kind of knot my dad taught me to hold the boat onto the dock. So I think it'll serve us well here. So here's your 4 beads in a circle. And now I'm just going to pass my needle underneath that thread bridge. It'll make a loop. And then I'll pass my needle back through that loop again. Okay. I then pass my needle 1 bead forward. And we're ready to go on to the next round. And this round will be white. First round was black. Next one is white, and then we alternate back and forth, black, white, until we finish all 12 rounds. After the knot, I will pass my needle forward 1 more bead, and then I can start the second round, which is all corners. So I'm going to pick up 2 beads. They are white beads. And I'll pass my needle through the second black bead of the previous round. And then I will pick up 2 more white beads and pass my needle through the next bead. Two more white beads. Pass the needle through the next black bead. And this is the final 2 beads, 2 white beads going through your last black bead. And now we need to step up. I'm doing it as 2 separate passes. And we step up through the first bead of the round you just completed. So you can say, what was the round I just completed? It was a white round. So I am passing my needle through that first white bead. Okay. Start on the third round. And we're going to be moving now. We did black, white, so now we're doing black again. We pick up 2 black beads and you go through the next white bead. So you're stacking your twins on top of each other. There we go. And now you're going to place 1 black bead between the 2 twins. So I'm going to pass my needle up through that white twin. And now we're going to stack 2 black beads. Those on my needle on top of the previous twins of white. And put 1 white bead in between the twins. When we watched Julia's animation, I think I talked about corners and sides. So it's to refer back to that way of sharing information. I'm stacking 2 beads on the corners and single beads on the sides. By now, your piece will begin to warp, and you want to encourage that. I think this takes fairly tight tension. And if you are having problems with the form having tension, you can use that tip from Franklin by every time that you complete a round. And here I'm completing the third round. I've added that last side bead on, and I'm coming up through the white bead and then on through to step up into the first of the black twins. And now if you want to lock that tension in, you can do that again by passing your needle under the thread bridge. It'll make a loop, and then pass your needle through the loop. That'll keep that tension maintained there. And you're going to keep going around and around until you've made this gorgeous form. Oh, they are so cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I'll look forward to more of our sessions together. This is Sam Norgard from the Black and White Together project. It was very nice working with you today, and have a great day. Bye for now.